The sun had just begun to sink over the skyline of Chicago when Marcus Bennett, a 38-year-old African-American lawyer, left his high-rise law office downtown and walked towards the underground parking garage, where his prized possession waited for him, a sleek, jet-black 2023 Mercedes-Benz S-Class AMG with gleaming chrome accents and leather seats that still carried that intoxicating new car scent. Marcus had worked tirelessly to reach this point in life, rising from a childhood in the struggling neighborhoods of South Side Chicago, to graduating top of his class at Harvard Law School, and eventually becoming a highly sought-after defense attorney known for his sharp mind, relentless advocacy, and courtroom charisma. Driving his luxury car was more than a pleasure. It was a statement to himself that his hard work and resilience had paid off, even in a society that often judged him before knowing his name. That evening, as he pulled onto the Lakeshore Drive, the city lights flickering in the distance, Marcus decided to take the scenic route home to his upscale Lincoln Park neighborhood. He turned up his jazz playlist, letting the soft notes of Miles Davis fill the cabin, and for a moment, he felt entirely free, unburdened by the pressures of courtrooms, clients, and the silent weight of racial expectations he carried daily. But as fate would have it, that brief window of peace shattered when he noticed the flashing red and blue lights appear in his rearview mirror. His stomach tightened immediately, not because he had done anything wrong, but because every black man in America knew that being pulled over by the police was never just a routine stop. It was an unpredictable encounter with history, stereotypes, and potential danger. Marcus signaled, carefully steering his Mercedes to the side of the road, his heart beating with that familiar mix of frustration and caution. Two white police officers stepped out of the cruiser behind him, one tall and lean with a clean-shaven face, his name tag reading Officer Collins, and the other slightly shorter with a thick mustache and a rigid stance, Officer Reynolds. Their flashlights cut through the dusk, reflecting off the glossy hood of Marcus's car. Collins approached the driver's side, his hand already resting on his holstered weapon, while Reynolds circled around to the passenger side, peering in as if expecting contraband or a hidden threat. "License and registration," Collins said in a firm, slightly cold tone, his eyes scanning Marcus up and down, lingering a secco too long on his tailored navy suit and gold wristwatch. Marcus kept his hands visible on the steering wheel, his voice calm, but edged with weariness as he replied, "Certainly, officer. May I ask what the problem is?" Collins didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned slightly to get a better view inside the car. This vehicle was reported driving suspiciously in the area, he finally said, though his tone suggested suspicion rather than certainty. Marcus knew the game. They hadn't seen him do anything illegal. They just didn't expect someone who looked like him to be driving a car like this. Slowly, Marcus retrieved his wallet and handed over his license and registration. Reynolds muttered from the other side, "Nice car. Where'd you get it?" Marcus took a steadying breath before responding, "I bought it." The officer's eyebrow arched, and the implication hung in the air like smog. After checking his documents, Collins went back to the squad car, likely running his information, while Reynolds stayed behind, still peering through the tinted windows as if trying to find a reason to escalate the stop. Cars whizzed past on the highway, and Marcus could feel the stares of threesome drivers, curious, judgmental, or indifferent. A familiar anger bubbled under his calm exterior. He had spent his whole life breaking through barriers, proving his worth in rooms that weren't built for people like him. Yet here he was, still a suspect in the eyes of those sworn to serve and protect. After several tense minutes, Collins returned, now holding a different expression, not quite apologetic, but certainly less confrontational. "Mr. Bennett," he said, his tone shifting slightly, "are you the Marcus Bennett?" The attorney. Marcus met his gaze steadily. "Yes, I am." Collins glanced at Reynolds, who was now noticeably less rigid, and then back at Marcus. "We saw your name in the system and realized you've been in the news. Big cases. You defended that senator's son last year, right?" Marcus gave a short nod, his patience thin. "That's correct." The sudden change in their demeanor was almost comical. The edge in their voices softened, and Reynolds even forced a chuckle, as if trying to bridge the unspoken tension. "Well, looks like everything's in order," Collins said, clearing his throat. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Just doing our job, you know." Marcus could hear the hollow ring in the officer's words, an attempt to save face without acknowledging the underlying bias that had fueled the stop in the first place. He considered letting it slide, as he had done in the past for the sake of moving on with his life, but something in him refused to stay silent this time. He lowered his window further and said in a clear, measured voice, "Officers, I hope you realize that the only reason I was pulled over tonight was because I'm a black man driving a nice car. That's not suspicious activity. That's racial profiling." Collins opened his mouth as if to protest, but then closed it again, looking faintly embarrassed. Reynolds shuffled his feet and muttered, "We didn't mean anything by it." Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Meaning well doesn't erase the experience. I've worked my entire life to get to where I am, and yet moments like this remind me that I'll always be seen a certain way first. I suggest, for the sake of every other black man you might pull over, that you reflect on that." His words hung heavy in the evening air, and for a moment, the officers were silent. Finally, Collins nodded stiffly. "Understood, sir. You're free to go. Have a safe night." Marcus started his car again, the soft purr of the engine breaking the awkward quiet, and pulled back onto the highway. He drove for a while in thoughtful silence, the city lights blurring past as his mind churned. He wasn't surprised by what had happened. Experience had taught him to expect it, but he was exhausted by it. And yet, he reminded himself, speaking up mattered. Maybe those officers would think twice the next time they saw a black man behind the wheel of a luxury car. As he turned into his neighborhood and the security gate opened to let him in, Marcus felt the familiar mix of pride and frustration that defined so much of his journey. He had achieved the American dream, yet the reality of being a black man in America meant that even in success, he carried the weight of proving his humanity over and over again. That night, as he parked his car and looked back at its shining exterior, he made a silent vow to keep living boldly and unapologetically, because every mile he drove, Every courtroom he conquered, and every challenge he overcame was a quiet rebellion against the prejudice that tried, and failed, to define him.